textbook talks in terms of trying to find the lowest common multiple to do these. That means what's the smallest number that all of these go into, which in this case would be 20 as a method. And that's perfectly fine, but I'm going to do it how I would do it, and that's, I think, just a bit more logical, and you just go through the steps. There's a few more steps involved, but they're logical steps, and it's just a case of repeating them, okay? If I look at this problem, what I don't want are these numbers. I could really do with getting rid of these fractions that are underneath, okay? Because then I've got a problem just like you've been looking at already with all the letters and numbers on top. So that's my method. That's my reasoning, okay? I want to get rid of them. How do I get rid of divide by 5 here, multiplied by 5? If I multiplied that term by 5, I could cancel those 5s out, and I'd be left with 2y. However, if I multiply by 5, I've got to multiply every term on both sides by 5. If I multiply by 5, I've got to multiply everything by 5. If you look at this, 2 plus 3 equals 5. If I multiply every term by 2, it's still true. But I've got to multiply every term by 2. So that's what I do. I multiply 3 by 5 to get rid of that 5. And I get 2y plus, I've got to multiply 3 over 4 by 5 plus 5 times 5, which is 25, equals 1 over 20 times 5 is 5 over 20 minus 3y over 2 times 5. I multiply every term by 5. With practice, I can actually skip this step a bit and go straight to 2y. If I'm going to multiply 3/4 by 5, 3/4 multiplied by 5 is actually the same as 5 over 1. And when you multiply fractions, you just multiply top and multiply bottom. So this becomes 15 over 4. 5 3s is 15 over 4. It's as easy as that. Plus 25 equals 5 over 20 minus 5 times 3y is 15y over 2. So I end up with that. You see that step? What am I going to look at what's happened? I've got rid of the 5 underneath there. What am I going to do now? Right, multiply 3 by 4 and I'll get rid of that. 4 times 2y is 8y. That 4 is gone, so I'm just left with 15. 4 times 25 is 100. Equals 4 times 5 is 20. Minus 4 times 15 is 60. Y over 2. Try simplifying a bit. 8y plus 15 plus 100. Actually, I can combine them together. Equals 1 minus 30y. And so on. And I'm there. Okay? Now fine, because these 20s cancel to give 1 and the 60 over 2 gives 30, I actually don't need to carry on and multiply 3 by 20 and 2. But if these hadn't have disappeared, I could have just carried on and multiplied 3 by 20 and 2. Okay? And then we're in a situation where we've got 8y plus 115 equals 1 minus 30y. And then we're into the same sort of problems you've just been looking at. So what do I do? If I've got a fraction, I just multiply through by these denominators, one at a time until it looks better. Let's look at one more. I'll pick this one out because the same principle applies. We've got something like this. Fractions all over again, but this time the thing I'm after is in the bottom. It's in the denominator. Well, don't let that worry you. Just multiply. If I want to get rid of the t minus 2 underneath, multiply by t minus 2. So I end up with 3, because I multiplied by t minus 2, equals 4 over 3t plus 4, multiplied by t minus 2. I've multiplied both sides by t minus 2. Still not good. What would I do now? Multiply by 3t plus 4. So I'd get rid of this, but I've got to multiply the other side by 3t plus 4 equals 4 times t minus 2. Note the effect. A lot of people would say, well, actually, I've got to multiply that by that, so that goes up to the top on the other side, and that comes to the top over here, which is effectively what's happened. But beware of just doing that, because it doesn't always work, especially if you've got things added and subtracted. So multiply both sides by 3t plus 4 and t minus 2, and suddenly everything's at the top. And then I just multiply out the brackets as you've been doing, and then we're in the same, again, the same sort of problem as you've been doing. So it's just practice now. So have a go at some of those in that exercise.